Additionally said the president will not spend a long time this time around. President Buhari may dissolve his cabinet before inauguration day in May. Buhari government says it is ready for the implementation of the 30,000 naira new national minimum wage. In international news, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to be indicted in corruption charges. He says it's a witch hunt. And in sports, Nigeria's Francisca Odega signs for Shanghai WFC.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Presidential media aide Femi Adesina says President Muhammadu Buhari will very likely dissolve his cabinet before May the 29th. Adesina said the president will not spend a long time this time around to appoint his cabinet, unlike the more than 6 months it took him to appoint his ministers in 2015. He said those working with the president now were appointed for the first 4-year mandate, which ends in May. Adesina said his second inauguration will call for a reconstituted government, for which he would have to appoint a new cabinet and other positions, including his aides. Nigerians are looking forward to the next exercise in the selection of political leaders, and the Independent National Electoral Commission says it is ready for the task 9 days from now. INEC Chairman Mahmood Yakubu said during a meeting with President Electoral Commissioners on Thursday, 29 states will hold governorship election, while 7 states had already held that exercise off-season in the staggered arrangement. Yakubu said there would be elections in 68 constituencies and 46 chairmen and 52 councillors. The chairman said his meeting with resident electoral officers was to take stock and review the conduct of the Presidential National House of Assembly elections to learn from the experience before going into state elections.
It's important for us to meet and review the experiences of the last election with a view to strengthening our processes towards the successful conduct of the state elections on Saturday, March the 9th.
Meanwhile, there are reports that INEC may face mass exits of resident electoral commissioners and national commissioners to express their disappointment at events they said took place during the presidential election. They complain of intimidation, harassment, and threats to life by security agencies. Now, reports say some of the electoral officers are afraid they may face severe attacks in the March governorship and state assembly elections. There were charges that some of the electoral officers were held hostage, and some were even left at the mercy of hoodlums during the presidential election. Security personnel assigned to protect them reportedly disappeared. A nationwide daily newspaper has quoted a source as saying without intervention, many of the recs and national commissioners are thinking of quitting as a result of their experience last week. The indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, has claimed control of political activities in the southeast and south-south region of the country because of the way presidential and national assembly elections turned out. The group's leader, Uche Mefo Okafo, made the pronouncement on Thursday in a statement. The statement says, in spite of what the group considered massive rigging in elections, President Buhari could not win any state in the 2 regions. The group says it is now in all-time stronger stead and in a more advantaged strategic position to drive home the Biafra restoration project. It then declared the IPOB shall be in control of Biafra land politically, except where and when otherwise explicitly stated. The federal government has clarified Chief Justice Walter Nohe's status as suspended and not removed from office. This was cleared up by Attorney General of the Federation on Thursday in response to a lawsuit filed before the Supreme Court by the Cross River State government. The Solicitor General of the Federation and Permanent Secretary, Justice Ministry, Dayo Akpata, who represented the 2 respondents, says the suspension will afford Nohe time to stand trial on charges of non-declaration of assets instituted against him before the Code of Conduct Tribunal. He asked the court to dismiss the suit. Akpata insisted that Onohe's suspension was not arbitrary, but that the president's decision to suspend the CJN followed a valid order which Onohe himself has now appealed. In other news, the federal government says it has made provisions for implementation of the 30,000 new minimum wage. Secretary to the government, Boss Mustafa, told reporters in Abuja on Thursday that the government was committed to the implementation. He said the president has sufficient capital in terms of his own integrity to earn up to whatever the Nigerian people decide. He said the government has made adequate accommodation in the 2019 appropriation bill to cater for the new wage. Mustafa said the aim of the government is to give workers across the country a reasonable wage, and that President Buhari does not take the welfare of workers for granted. In entertainment news, a week ago, the story of Babasuwe Indicted health challenges and admission to the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Luth, was told in many media outlets. In it, National President of the Theatre Art and Motion Pictures Producers Association of Nigeria, TAMPAN, Bolaji Amushon, also known as Mr. Latin, says the veteran actor is suffering from an undisclosed ailment. Amushon said Health Minister Professor Isaac Adewale had announced that the federal government will foot Omidino's medical bills. He thanked the minister for making arrangements for Luth to admit and treat the ailing actor. He also commended Vice President Yemi Oshibajo for donating ₦1 million toward Babasuwe's treatment. We're telling the story again to let everyone know, and every Babasuwe fan know, that he's in good hands and is receiving great treatment. In education news, the National Open University of Nigeria says the recent signing of its Amendment Act of 2018 will raise its profile to the same level with all recognized universities in Nigeria. Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Council of Universities, Professor Peter Okebukola, said this at a news conference on Thursday in Lagos. Okebukola said the act, recently gazetted and published in December, will further strengthen the university to provide open and distance learning opportunities to millions of Nigerians. Okebukola also announced that while 18,000 students will graduate this year at the university's convocation to be held in March, 17,000 will be admitted into the university for the 2018-2019 academic session. Coming up, African stories, and later, international stories. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu faces indictment for corruption.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. The United Nations has launched an international appeal for aid to help Zimbabwe following a drought that expects to affect at least a third of the population. Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief, Mark Lowcock, told reporters in Harare on Thursday the UN was seeking $234 million in emergency aid. Seasonal rains have been patchy in Zimbabwe, and deepening economic crisis marked by an acute dollar crunch that has already led to shortages of medicines, fuel, and food. At least 6 aid workers have been abducted by gunmen in Somalia's southwestern Gedo region. District Commissioner Imanado said the 8 workers, all Somalis, were traveling to Bura village when the vehicle was ambushed by the gunmen on Wednesday. He said some of the 8 workers managed to escape, but 6 were taken captive. The aid workers are involved in efforts to curb malnutrition among women, children and the elderly, and were going to the village to assess the situation in Ghetto region when they were seized. The motive for the adoptions is unclear, and some locals blame militant Islamic group Al-Shabaab for the kidnappings, but the group has not yet commented. Police in Algeria have arrested several journalists on Thursday as a protest in the capital calling for the right to cover anti-government demonstrations which began a week ago. The journalists had held banners demanding a free and democratic press. Witnesses say they saw police lead away several reporters at the protest. For 7 days now, thousands of Algerians have taken part in protests against the alien president Abdelaziz Bouteflika's plan to seek a fifth term in the forthcoming presidential elections. Bouteflika has been away undergoing medical checks in Switzerland. His opponents say 82-year-old Bouteflika is not fit to lead, but authorities say he retains a firm grip on public affairs. Libya rival groups have met to discuss how to end years of instability in their country. The United Nations says rival leaders, internationally recognized Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj and General Khalifa met in the United Arab Emirates. The meeting was chaired by the UN envoy for Libya, who has called for an agreement on the need to hold general elections to break the current deadlock in the nation. Libya has been marred by lawlessness since the overthrow of longtime leader Muammar Gaddafi 8 years ago. Last month, rival troops launched an offensive into the south and seized a number of oil fields. Kenya Member of Parliament have failed to pass by 2/3 the gender bill for the fourth time. Only 174 MPs turned up for the much-awaited vote out of the 233 members required for any amendments to the Constitution. The move compelled the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, to declare the motion lost. A section of female lawmakers accused their male counterparts and the government of failing to help pass the amendments that sought to boost women representation.
I believe that the Kenyan public is still pregnant with the 2/3 gender bill. And until this bill is delivered, we shall mobilize the women of Kenya to say no to referendum.
It's not right, but that is what we got today. It is not the end of the world. It is not the end of the campaign. I'm still sure that there are many, many more avenues through which we can achieve what we came out to achieve.
The World Bank says it has allocated up to $80 million to the Democratic Republic of Congo to fight Ebola. The grants, supported by Japan, Germany and Australia, will cover more than half the cost for the next 6 months of the DR Congo's government's drive to end the current Ebola outbreak. The country needs an estimated $148 million to fund its efforts to halt the outbreak. Health Minister Oli Ilongo Kalenga says this outbreak has been the worst since the country has ever faced. He said the renewed financial commitment from the World Bank Group and the PEF will allow them and partners to concentrate fully on fighting Ebola and protecting the health of citizens. When we return, international news. Stormy time for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as he faces indictment for corruption. And later, sports. Nigeria's Francisca Odega signs for Shanghai WFC.
You are watching ANN.
Looking for some Disney magic but don't know where to find it? We've got a magical solution just for you. Simply go to DisneyNigeria.mobi and get an exciting selection of games, short videos, wallpapers, shareables, and more. Explore a whole new world of Disney on your mobile, tablet, or PC. For just 200 Naira monthly, you get to enjoy the fun to infinity and beyond. SMS Disney to 11006 to begin. Terms and conditions apply. This service is only available to MTN customers.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to world events. There were hopes that some survivors trapped in a collapsed illegal gold mine in Indonesia would be rescued in a matter of time, but sadly, the hope has been dashed. 3 dozen miners have been confirmed dead after oxygen levels fell inside the mine. National Search and Rescue Agency says 8 miners had died and 27 had been rescued on Friday. The agency says 1 man had been rescued alive, but he died on the way to the hospital. An official said it was hard to confirm exactly how many persons were still trapped in the mine, as many of them were not locals. Israel's Attorney General Javier Mandelblit says after a 2-year investigation, his office plans to indict Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on corruption charges. The Prime Minister faces 1 count of bribery and 3 counts of breach of trust. The prosecutors would have to go forward with a pre-indictment hearing before Netanyahu is formally charged. The Prime Minister claims the former Prime Minister had received small gifts similar to what he'd been accused of taking, but were not charged. The most serious allegations against Netanyahu involve his relationship with Shaul Elovich, the controlling shareholder of Israel's telecom giant Bezik. They believe Netanyahu used his connections with Elovich to receive positive press coverage on Bezik's popularity, a popular subsidiary news site, Walla. Pakistan was set to free a captured Indian pilot on Friday in a peace gesture aimed at lowering temperatures with its nuclear arch-rival after fears of a dangerous conflict in South Asia. Wing Commander Abdinanda Vataman has become the face of the crisis between Islamabad and New Delhi. His handover of officials at the Wagah border crossing on Friday afternoon is expected to cool the temperature between the 2 countries. The announcement of his release was seen as a diplomatic victory, the Indian leaders welcoming the pilot's return, but announcing they would remain on heightened military alert, showing little sign of de-escalating the rivalry. Abdinanda's warplane was shot down over Kashmir on Wednesday after a dogfight in the skies over the disputed Himalayan region, which sent tensions between India and Pakistan to their highest levels in years and alarmed world powers who issued calls for restraint. The United States and Russia both failed on Thursday in rival bids to get the United Nations Security Council to take action on Venezuela, cementing a global split over how to deal with the political and humanitarian crisis in the South American country. Russia and the U.S. have been at loggerheads over a U.S.-led campaign for international recognition of Juan Guaido, the Venezuelan opposition leader and head of the country's elected National Assembly, over President Nicolas Maduro. Russia and China vetoed a U.S.-drafted Security Council resolution calling for a free and fair presidential election in Venezuela and unhindered aid access. The U.S. text garnered a minimum 9 votes, forcing a double veto, while South Africa also voted no. 3 countries abstained. The United States has offered up to $1 million for information leading to the identification or whereabouts of Osama bin Laden's son. The State Department described Hamza bin Laden as a leader within Al-Qaeda who is growing in prominence within the U.S.-designated terror group. The junior bin Laden has released audio and video messages on the internet calling for attacks against the West and a threatened revenge for his father's killing by U.S. forces in 2011. In a covert operation carried out in Pakistan at a compound where the Al-Qaeda leader was holed up. Bin Laden claimed responsibility for the September 11, 2001 attacks on New York's Twin Towers as well as the Pentagon. Those attacks were carried out using 3 passenger planes hijacked by Al-Qaeda operatives. Nearly 3,000 persons were killed that day, including citizens of roughly 77 countries. Up next, sport. Nigeria's Francisca Odega signs for Shanghai WFC. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you dey use Palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that Palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that Palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that Palasa
to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it not for your hand, that's Palasa Food.
Welcome back. This is INEC News. In sport, Nigeria international Francisca Odega has moved to the Chinese Women's Super League after signing for Shanghai WFC. The 25-year-old has joined the Shanghai club for the 2019 season from the United States National Women's Soccer League side, Watching Team Spirit, where she made 63 appearances in a 4-year spell. Former Zambia Football Association official Boniface Nwamelo has confirmed his intention to appeal his life ban imposed by FIFA on Wednesday. He was found guilty of having accepted bribes in violation of the FIFA Code of Ethics. Nwamelo, the former treasurer and vice president of the Football Association of Zambia, was also fined $10,000 as part of his punishment. FIFA say Nwamelo is banned from all football-related activities following an investigation which started in October 2017. That is INEC News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit the website inenafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at INEC Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a good weekend.